I lived corporate America for 13 years, chasing the next promotion, chasing the next raise, chasing the next whatever that they would promise you. I found it to be pretty empty, honestly, because you would get there and you're like, shit, this is it? This is it.
Who doesn't want to be a great leader? A leader who's calm under pressure, insightful, respected, well-liked. But what does it take to become a great leader? Hey, I'm Boo, and welcome to my podcast. The Few Leadership Podcast defines great leadership and what great leadership looks like. And I've found some of the world's best leaders or experts in the field of leadership to help you accelerate your leadership journey so you can be an ace at the game of leadership. If you're ready to rethink everything you know about leadership, if you're excited about accelerating your leadership journey, let's strap in and ignite your leadership potential.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Another episode of The Few. If you liked the last episode, please remember, before we kick off, to like the podcast, to leave a comment, leave a review. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. Having one of those days, didn't really feel like doing the podcast. I'll be honest, when I was a fighter pilot, we were always told never start a brief on a negative. Sometimes that sends you a false, I believe in intention and convincing yourself to have a good day. But equally, some days you don't. But the important thing is we're here. And it's because of this guest I got motivated to get onto the podcast, get over myself, because we intentionally created a moment in time where I got to spend some time with a high-quality individual. And that high-quality individual is Brian Covey. Brian, thank you so much for coming on The Few, man.
How about it, man? We've been wanting to do this, got to connect up at the event in Atlanta, and I'm with you, bro. There's days, and there's days even like today. Let's be real, man. Like after this, I told you I'm going to go for a run and clear my head out of some other stuff going on in the month and the week, and we keep moving forward, right? We show up regardless of our feelings.
Yeah, I think it's exhausting. People try and keep up with this intensity and the hustle of social media and trying to always fulfill all the positivity that is espoused by every expert on the planet. And hey, there's a role for that as well. But yeah, what do you think about the talk track, which is sometimes the success in life and getting what you want is succeeding in the moments when you don't have the mojo?
This year, I've had some of the biggest breakthroughs I've had in the last decade with regards to my health and my fitness. And I think we were talking about some of this before, and it's like just you get comfortable. You get into a certain spot of whatever that success is in a certain area. And I came into this year and I'm like, I just wasn't happy. I had this desire for something better. And I put myself in that very uncomfortable spots this year over and over and over. And I would love to tell you that there's some like easy button, but even the other night, Boo, I'm literally sitting on the couch after 5 o'clock. I'm like, dude, I could just sit on this couch for a few hours, watch some soccer, just chill out. And my wife's like, hey, why don't you and our youngest is 9, why don't you guys go for a bike ride? And so I went out and ran 3.5 miles. I don't share it to impress you. I just share like the feeling that I had getting off the couch and going and moving reminded me like we have to move as people. We're designed there. And most of our life is designed around sitting, driving in a car, going to an office and sitting more, coming home and sitting on your couch longer. And you have to design a life that you actually put this intentionality of movement, great conversations, be around great people, like have aspirations and be intentional. Without that, I think people just fall to this very low floor and it's a low standard and bar.
Yeah, I remember seeing a quote somewhere and it said, the pursuit of comfort is what ages you. And the fact that, let's flip that on its head, use it or lose it, all those little glib statements. But the reality is, and I certainly know as I tick over the half century into 50, you just have to get going and let the inertia change from still to movement. Brian, we were chatting a few months ago, chatting about health and fitness journey, chatting about having a healthy body to lead to a healthy mind, healthy intentions. But what are you doing right now to change the world? What's your purpose?
Oh man, I love this question. I say I was put on the earth. My wife and I've been married 22 years, and my single best decision was marrying like my bride. Like 22 years, ride or die. The crap we have been through, the ups and the downs. You celebrate with them. You also deal with the crap with them. And then we've been blessed to have 3 kids. And so my oldest is about to go into college, which is a huge piece that's there. Then our middle is a sophomore, and our youngest, I'll share, our 9-year-old that went, bike riding and running with. And I say, I was put on the earth, one, to be a great spouse and a great dad. I think that's where it starts. Like anybody that says like you're gonna go and create a company or be an entrepreneur and chase your dreams, I actually believe it's the opposite. I tried that path and I lived corporate America for 13 years, chasing the next promotion, chasing the next raise, chasing the next whatever that they would promise you. I found it to be pretty empty, honestly, because you would get there and you're like, oh shit, this is it. This is it. And so I flipped that on its script after not doing it well and doing it the wrong way and being on the road and doing things. As I flipped that, and my purpose has really evolved over 20 years. I've been in the mortgage and real estate space. And what I've started to realize is there's leaders that don't really have guides or mentors that have been through the hard stuff. They've been through seasons. They don't want to make cold calls anymore. They're hiring the wrong people. They don't know how to train their people. They don't know how to build a sales culture. They don't have excellence outside the office. They don't have balance at home whatsoever. They don't have their faith in order. They don't have their fitness. Like their finances are in shambles, but yet they work in the mortgage or real estate space. Make that sense. And so I've realized for me, the more I can learn and the more that I'm able to share that I've gone through, and those tough seasons now start to make sense. My purpose is to help leaders create other leaders in our industry so that we really transform and move this all forward. And it's no longer a position of title. It's no longer a position of you've got to move up to have more influence. It's where are you right now? Can you be where your feet are and make a big, massive impact with whatever you've been called to do now? Then I believe you'll be given more opportunity, whatever that looks like for you. So that's been my purpose in a nutshell, man. It's and it's evolving, my friend.
I get a sense people think purpose is this object that's really clear and it sits there all the time and it's the same thing and it drives you all the time. But that thing is a fluid animal. Like that thing is like a Nickelodeon slime. It's just kind of you got to work hard to keep it there. Just want to rewind a bit though, because if you look at the world and how almost by necessity it's very finance and money driven, just to put a roof over your head now. And real estate and mortgage broking, obviously, it's a pretty cut and thrust industry, very transactional. A lot of people move into that industry because they want to make money, right? Like that is a big motivator. I have a lot of my friends from school who are in real estate, and not many of them went into real estate to say, you know what, I want to go into real estate to put roofs over people's houses and make sure families have a nice warm fireplace at night. And I want to be in commercial real estate because it's important to me that the average office worker has a wonderful space in which to work. Yeah, there is no, so tell me a little bit about that. I mean, what happens in those environments and cultures and the leaders and the people in there in terms of being able to be purposeful in an environment that's, let's be honest, is all about the money.
Well, I think you're seeing it right now. The data doesn't lie. Today, if you were to look over the past couple of years, when it was easier a few years ago, rates were low, houses were flying off, people were buying sight unseen, over asking price, multiple bids. There were lines outside of open houses. People were just trying to get in and buy. You shift into a market. What you've seen in the last couple of years, even the last 12 months, is we've seen almost a 50% in both real estate agents and mortgage professionals leave. Now, I'm always I like data. And so you go beneath that and you say, okay, well, most of them were probably only doing 1, 2, maybe 3 transactions a year anyway. They were part-time is what we would probably classify them as. And your point, they got in because they thought it was easy. They could make a lot of money, probably not doing a lot. Because if I were to look at the average real estate professional and the ones I know that are excelling, what the ones that are excelling are doing, spending on their marketing, what they're doing at their database, their follow-up, their service, how they're working off-market listings, like what they're doing looks nothing like the person that got out of the business, like nothing, but yet they're in the same profession. Now go back over 20 years ago, I remember Nicole and I, we were buying our first house and I worked in the bank side of Wells Fargo and the organization there. We were financing like furniture, like 0%. For 4 years, no payments, super sexy job, right? Like, let me help you finance.
Living the dream, mate. Living the
dream. I'm going through this and we're trying to buy our first house, right? Because before we got married, we had an apartment. It's really my wife's. And I'm living
quickly,
at my
sorry to interrupt, but because obviously as you get older and you experience more, you come at life with this perspective, I think that we don't have, obviously, when we're in our 20s. So at the time, was that the job you wanted to do? Or was that something you were just kind of had to do?
Mixture of both. I was coaching because when I got done playing soccer, my qualifications read like it was a lot of soccer, right? And that's all I had. I'd worked a little bit of retail, selling clothes, like men's clothes, and I didn't really have much experience because literally my life, playing Division I soccer and then after playing pro ball, it was soccer. So I thought I was going to go coach. And I will tell you what I did do that I think was smart. I couldn't get a job in the banks, the traditional banks. I couldn't get a job in like financial planning and all that. Like imagine a 25-year-old trying to advise 50-year-olds on financial planning. I look back now and go, what was I thinking? But I got a job at a company that loved to hire athletes and they trained people. And I knew from my background, if I had the right coach, the right environment, right people around me, I'd figure out how to win. So yes and no. I didn't think I'd be in that exact job, but I did pick things that I knew for me culturally would fit. And I got the best training for 18 months before I shifted into the next role there of let me learn the game. Let me learn credit, income, assets, all these things that I did enjoy finance and marketing and, some of that type of stuff. That was something I enjoyed.
Obviously, that organization was insightful to realize that it's not what you do, it's who you are is what you're hiring, right? And as a professional athlete at that point in time, there's a bunch of known quantities there, right? You're going to be on time. You're going to put everything into everything that you do. You are healthy, so you're not going to be having sick days. And so many organizations fail to come at it from that perspective. Just talk about that perhaps in terms of, that's a big call. We're talking about points of percentiles that end up becoming well-paid professional athletes. I mean, that the life-changing kind of money, right? And what's it like to pursue that goal?
It's not what you think it is. When I was pursuing it, you see all the things on TV. Now, if you look at the MLS and like where soccer is, it's very different than it was in 99 and 2000, like when I was playing, right? And I will tell you this, it was always my dream. And it was one of those things that I'm proud of myself because I completed the dream. But then I also had this other dream and I'd promised my parents I would go back and finish my degree. And so it was like these competing agendas. But I will say for me, and a lot of the athletes that I've talked to, that eventually at some time you retire, either on your own accord, you get injured, or you get cut and you're not picked back up, right? Like it happens at some point, everyone's career. Unless you're Tom Brady, you kind of find a way to come back in and work it back in. But I will say this is I can look back on that now and it really has become foundational for me because what I learned at every new level in college and even in pro is there was just different mindsets, different approaches, people that they did things. It's why they were pros. And I was able then to take that into business. So I love looking back now because I will say, had I not done it, I would always look back and wonder kind of the what if, and I was able to leave on my own terms.
Was your journey one which was, because, you're obviously letting go of one dream, moving into something that feels a lot less like a dream. How did you manage that kind of transition, or was it something that was sort of insidious and you felt it coming?
I still have an identity of a pro athlete. Like when I show up and compete and work out, when I show up and compete at the office, when I go out there with my kids, there is part of that I've carried that identity of, I know what I've been able to accomplish, but out of that, I know the discipline and what it's required to get to the next level. And so I'm using that experience to help other people. And, I will tell you, a lot of people use it and they look back like, oh, if I'd done this or if I'd done that, like to me, that's giving negative energy and power to the story of, no, I was able to do it. Could I have gone further? Probably, possibly. Like, I don't know. But you have to give power to the fact that you accomplished something, to your point. Very few people in their life ever do. And so not to discount what you've done. I think people do that. So if you're listening, don't discount what you've accomplished in your life. God's uniquely put you there. And you might think, well, yeah, I could have done more and I could have played longer. I could have, got that next promotion. I could have got my business to this. Like you're coming up with all these. I would just invite you to consider, like, what if you just own the fact that you accomplished something great? And now you can help other people as a result.
What about people that haven't? What about people who maybe get to their 30s and feel like they haven't done it? They didn't really play sport at school. They didn't really do well at school. Might have been a 51%er at college, ended a middling job. It's all about their mates and spending time, having a good time. And then gradually, all of a sudden, you start to realize, gosh, maybe I've misspent a bit of time there. It's too late. Is it too late?
No. And here's what we know. Just look at the average age of a millionaire in their 50s. I think it's 54 now. That's actually when they become a millionaire. If you look at people that have started business and they're actually successful, we see a lot of these on social media. They promote like you're in your 20s or early 30s and you created this company and sold it and you made multi-millions of dollars. Again, not the normal. The normal person, it actually takes them longer. It's later in life because they've gone through so much experience and it takes them there. And so if that's you and you're listening today, you're going, yeah, Brian, I didn't play any of that. Like maybe you didn't play high school sports and all that. Here's the beautiful thing. You can start where you are and you'll probably have more people relate to you than I would, because I have the other side of the coin is I'm so driven in certain areas and so competitive in certain areas. Like that can be a detractment to people because they're like, dude, that guy's on all the, like, why do we need to do that? You might be unique.
I can't be that. I can't be that. So I'm not going to learn anything from this guy.
I'm not going to do it at all. You know, I have the
Yeah.
people go, well, I can't run the race fast enough, or I can't lift weights. And so I'm not going to go into the gym, or it's whatever excuse you put on there. And so I would just tell you, no, it's not too late. And I'll give you a real life example this year in my own life is I had a goal set out that I was going to run more than I did last year. And I ran like 370 miles last year, entire year. Like, good, Brian. That's the most I've ever run. I started this year, and let me just tell you, boo, January, February, and March, I sucked. Like I probably only got about 20 miles in 3 months. Not a good start. So then what I look at is I said, you know what? I got my birthday coming up in August. I started to attach this to goals and motivation for me of, you know what? I want to be my fittest. By this year, I'm turning 47. I have a goal that I want to lose some pounds. I want to get my body fat down. I want to do these things. I started to attach myself to something that I could believe in and get behind. Shared it with my family, my friends, all of that. And I'm here to tell you, like, I'm crossing over 400 miles, more than I did last year. I started late. I did this year on a goal. So I don't think you're ever too late.
Sometimes big goals can be a little bit like, I think big goals that you set when you've got a lot of time, you can always be like, I can kind of pick that up. I got a year to pick that up, right? I can't remember. Sorry, folks, if I've said this about 100 times on this podcast. My memory is terrible. It seems to be coming up more and more on socials. This Elon Musk phrase, which is give yourself 30 days to clean a house. It'll take you 30 days. Give yourself 30 minutes. It'll take you 30 minutes. And being intentional about time. I do want to unpack it a little bit, what's going on there, Brian, because I think the breaking the big stuff down into the little stuff and then bringing an accountability layer. Talk through your mental process to go from, damn, I'm only 20 in. Easy to give up, right? Easy to say, oh, well, look, what's the big deal? And then shifting that mindset into, okay, I'm going to do it. Because, you know, you can't go and run 20 miles in one day to make up for it, right? You're going to do Achilles heel. You're going to do something. So what does that look like to go from big goal to incremental?
Oh man, I love this one. And I share that I have a 90-day sprint framework that I use. And one of my coaches and I, we created this several years ago. The 90-day sprint framework works very much like what you talked about. You give yourself 90 days to accomplish some of these goals that probably we would have set out to accomplish in a year. It's amazing what you can accomplish. And what you have to do within that though is you can't look at 90 days even. That's too far out. You need to then start reverse engineering into the month, the weeks, and the days, and go, if I reverse engineer success in my life, how many miles, for example, in that scenario, would I need to walk or run on a daily or weekly basis? Okay, cool. That's my number. So for me, it was 3 times a week times 3 miles. I can do that. Okay, I'm going to start to get back on track. If it's in sales, right? In our world, we call them points of contact, clients that you're reaching out to, prospects you're reaching out to, recruiting if you're doing that. Okay, how many people do I have to call to get a conversation, to get an appointment, to actually make a sale? Okay, so that means I need to make 5 of these a day. If I make 5 a day, 25 a week, I'm going to convert 5 just for numbers. Okay, so I got to do that. And what I started to realize is when I created an intentional day, I could actually program in the things that mattered. And Boo, I'll tell you, for most people, if you're like me at all, I had to realize all the things I was saying yes to that I had to start saying no. It's the no's that actually will get you back to your yes. And then reverse engineering this. On Sunday nights, I would start to look at my schedule. Do I have the meetings scheduled? If I don't, where am I going to get them? If I don't have my workout scheduled, I need to be in there. Where are my kids'
Do you run
schedules?
electronic or paper in terms of tracking?
So I would write it out because that helps me, but I use everything on my phone. Is my calendar is linked up to my work calendar. We have a family shared calendar. And so all of that I can see because on my phone when I'm traveling, for me, the digital calendar is what works best. And that's workouts, kids' sports, my sales calls, travel, all of it needs to go on there. And I had to start looking at that. And I even look at it now the night before, and I make sure the next day, what do I need to say no to? What can I delegate? Is there anything I need to outsource out? Or what's missing? What's missing in that day? If you do that over time, watch how you create momentum and the wins start to appear. So I would just tell you, it feels overwhelmed. Or like, man, I need to do more. Don't want to wait till the beginning of next year. You can start now and do that today. In your best periods of winning at life in whatever category, what you were doing. Program it in.
That whole scenario of don't make a decision about what you do tomorrow, make a decision around where you intend to be later. And then fill in the blanks. And I would imagine busy people, I think if you're anywhere where you're in sales, right, you're conditioned to go. You have to breathe deep. Mortgage broking, it's not like you call everyone every day and they're like, oh, thank God you called me. I'm just thinking about getting a mortgage today in the home that I've been owning for the last 25 years, right? Like it just doesn't happen. But to go from the state of being a warrior, and that's kind of that heightened stimuli, go, into a state of thoughtfulness is pretty hard. And when you look at your calendar the night before, I mean, are you intentional about creating thinking time, just time to not do stuff?
So mine's when I wake up. And when I wake up, it's before all the kids have gotten up, and I'm pretty regimented on that. That's right at 5:30. I don't use an alarm clock anymore. My body just kind of wakes up, and the kids start coming downstairs, my oldest too, before high school, around 6:15. So I got a little bit of time in there, and that is my time. Like I usually read, I've got this daily verse that gets sent to me. So that's my start. Like 5 minutes, I can read a daily verse, a little bit of scripture in there, put something good in, and then I'm looking at, okay, what do I want to do today? Like, and I'm thinking about like, what's my intention for the day? And this sounds, people are like, until you get it, you move yourself into, okay, today, these are the things I want to accomplish in these areas. This is my intention. I'm going to be grateful for the things I have, but also know I need to attack the day. And that works great for me. And then at 6:15, I see my oldest two, they leave by 7:00. They're out the door. 9-year-old's up. I got a little bit of time before about 8:20 that they leave with my wife. He goes to school. I leave and go to an 8:45 workout. I'm done at 9:30. I'm back home and calls start at 10. I just have that morning for me works really well because it puts all of the things for me that are priorities, right? Like business is going to keep happening with or without me.
You don't have to think about what you're going to do between 5:30 and 10, right? You get most of the way through the day without having to think and get a lot done.
Yeah. You know what happened? But like the other day I was thinking about this is I told myself, right, and we have these conversations with ourselves, like all of us do. And I'm going, yeah, I'm not going to go into the gym today where the class is. And, I know they've got the workout. The workout doesn't look good. I start just making up all this stuff. Like, I'm probably not going to get a good workout. That's lame, blah, blah, blah. What I know is if I don't go to that class, the likelihood of me doing something else, it's going to be as good or going to happen on time, I'm going to get distracted. And so what's funny is I go into the class and wouldn't you know, kicked my butt. Like, and it could have been because I underestimated. It could have been because, it's just one of those days. But I always say is when you program things in, there's a saying we have is standards over feelings. My feelings are saying, you don't have to go, man. You've worked out hard. Like, take a day. Like, just walk. Go do something light. But my standard is like I've booked the class. I go 5 days a week. I'm better when I go. But yet we fight these things. And so I only share that as like real talk. I deal with it. It comes up every once in a while, but it comes up less and less the more that I go, because what I know on the other side of it is when I go do that, I'm better. I'm in a better mindset.
And there's a momentum to it. I feel like people just buy into this myth of, hey, I'm an adult, so I'm free. I'm free to do whatever I want. I can, if you think about when you leave home, you're like, yeah, I'm free. I can drive wherever I want, eat whatever I want. Yeah, but really, all of that structure and routine our parents try to bring to us, that is what makes a competent, healthy, happy, content person, right? Did you have a phase in life where you're like just kind of all over the place, or are you kind of regimented from day dot?
No, a large part did come from soccer. Like a lot of that was built in through, right? Because that was just what it was. I was talking to our team.
That's like a window, right? That's when you're on in soccer mode, right? But there's all those times. It's funny how we know all that discipline and everything on the game, or when I was in the Air Force, when you're at work,
Yes.
It's like you just throw it out the window, like when you're not playing or you're not at training.
Yeah. And people probably relate to this too, is like, but there's been seasons in my life where I was really on, for example, like when I was in corporate America, things were very structured in our schedules and our meetings and our accountability and all the things. But then what would suffer is like my health and fitness and my relationships and like just other areas of your life where you're like, man, I'm dialed in over here. And it took me probably a good decade to put the two together to go, huh, well, if I'm aligned in all these areas that matter and like my core four, then I can have great relationships and a great.
What are you core for?
So when you think about family, faith, fitness, and for me, fun, like I put that in, and sometimes I'll mix in the finances because I do think that could be a fifth F for most people. But as I've gotten older in life, I've realized there has to be fun in there. And that was one that I included in because for too long, I didn't have fun. We didn't take the fun vacations. I was the person who was like, oh, I'm not going to spend the money on going doing that. Like, and I share that with everybody just because, so like in seasons, like we had our first two kids in 07, 08. If anybody knows anything about the mortgage business, that's when everything collapsed. Lost my job. I ended up having to travel every week to a temporary role because my job got eliminated. And I'm just trying to figure it all out. And the last thing I was doing was taking care of myself. I'm on a plane back and forth flying, not taking care of myself from a standpoint of like food, probably having too many alcoholic beverages during these seasons where you're going, not sleeping well, like you name it. It was like, and I look up, I remember seeing myself in the mirror. Who is that guy? Like, I look back at pictures now, Boo. I don't know if you've ever done this, but like, I look at pictures of myself during those seasons. And thank goodness there was no social media, at least for me then. It's not
Got
it's
that
not
round,
good.
punchy kind of thing going on, right?
It's not good. Yeah. And the pain that person, that former version of myself was going through, because those seasons, nobody really talks about it. There wasn't a lot of, social going on there. It wasn't a lot of focus even on mental health. I felt like at that time. And so you're just out there and you're grinding and trying to figure it out. The 24/7 hustle culture was kind of coming about at that point of like, we were all basically comparing how many hours we worked is a success metric. Like, how dumb was that?
If you're enjoying the show, I'd just like to ask of you a little favor. We're on a mission here to ignite the world's leadership potential. We need to reach out to as many leaders as we possibly can. So if you're enjoying the show, I just ask you to leave a review, to subscribe, to help introduce this podcast to other leaders to join you on your journey to flawless leadership. We're going to head back to the episode now. I hope you've enjoyed what you've learned today. Please remember, let's ignite a movement of flawless leaders. Subscribe, leave a review. Let's get back to the show.
It's kind of interesting because I think we were talking about this when we were at Ken's event, and Liza, who is a young woman who started this hospital in Africa, right, for kids, and talking about the challenge of infinite need. Like if you really, really lean into it and you became utterly selfless to the world, the amount of need that's required would suck you up until you had nothing left. Yeah. And I think when you go into corporate and into mortgage broking, into that transactional world, there's so little capacity left to service anyone's need around you. So you can see why everyone gets sucked into it, and no one cares. No one wants to hear it, right? No one wants to hear your problems today. No, you just got to get on with it. Now, I've thought about this a little bit, right? And in the world being yin and yang, I certainly came from an environment where no one wanted to hear it as well, right? Just, you got to fly the jet, be tough. Yeah, if you're genuinely down or fatigued, someone will say, "Hey, dude, you're right. Maybe have a rest today." That'd be it. But there has to be a balance between just getting on with it and having all this awareness, right? And having every feeling, the feelings of people around us, the awareness of somebody's mood, their personality, the 16 personalities. I mean, anything in your life that's kind of helped you comprehend the balance there, and when is too much need to service and you've got to focus on yourself, and when you get to a point where you have to be in service a bit more, because we always talk about generalities, right? Where I think when you talk about people who try and help people in life and they're trying to be insightful on a podcast for 45 minutes, you can say words and people can leave and go, "I need to be in service," or "That's 100% thing," or "I need to be focused," or "That's 100% thing." But really everything's a balance, right? So how do you balance life between service and getting, getting stuff done.
I think this is an interesting one. Balance has gotten thrown out, especially on social, a lot. And I'll share with you my perspective of balance is one, if you really dig into the definition, and I love the meaning of words and things. My dad is a psychologist, and so I love to just kind of peel back stuff and think how the brain works. Balance is not equal parts, meaning if there were 4 things for you, and I shared earlier about your faith, your family, your fitness, let's say fun or finances there, it doesn't mean balance would be 25, 25, 25, 25. That's not balance. In this season, what it might mean for you is your health is a priority. You just got bad news about it. You're overweight. You're not eating well. You need to go get that cleaned up. It might be you're so far in debt right now, or you're saving for a big purchase, or you're working towards some financial goal. The next 90 days, that needs to take precedent, and that needs to be what you're thinking about, what you're obsessing on. And all the while, it doesn't mean that you neglect the other areas, but there does, in my experience, needs to be a hyper focus, like you said, an intentional focus on what am I working on? It doesn't mean that I stop my other goals. Like I always share this, is just because I've had this goal this year to lose body fat and lose some pounds does not mean I didn't show up to the office and make my sales calls. Doesn't mean we didn't go hang out with my family and take vacations. It doesn't mean that I just went totally crazy and didn't pay attention to our investments and our finances. It doesn't mean that I didn't try to have some fun along the way and go do things with friends. Like that's not what it meant. But it did mean that when there were choices and there were decisions to be made, there were times that I need to figure out how to integrate. And I'm going to give you a hack that has helped me. And one of them I shared earlier, but I'm going to tell you, this has really helped me, Boo, is the other day when I know I need to go run, I need to go get those miles in. I also would love to hang out with my son. It's after 5 o'clock. He goes and rides his bike. I run. Soccer practice twice a week. This was another hack that I discovered. If my kid's out there practicing, and I'm not the coach, right? I'm a parent on the sideline. How many parents are just sitting there scrolling social media, hanging out aimlessly talking? What some of the dads and I have done is more than half the time now you'll see me, I'm just going to jog. I'm going to get 3 to 5 miles in because I'm there. You can't drive at 9. And I found ways to integrate these things. Our oldest son, 15, we built a home gym so he's able to lift weights and do things together, right? Like we say we don't have time, but I would ask everybody is actually write out where you're spending your time. And I started looking at this. Running's been really eye-opening to me, by the way, because I started looking at the average run and how many hours I've spent a week running. So I'm telling myself I don't have an hour and a half or 2 hours in a week to commit to something that I know is going to improve me. Now, that could be in your business where you say, I need to become a better speaker. I need to work on my prospecting. I need to get my social media ramped up. And if that 2 hours, if you're telling yourself you don't have the time, one, you're lying to yourself because I've been there. Number 2, you're limiting the potential of what God has in store for you, because what I found was it was just a scheduling and priority problem for me. I need to figure out how to weave it in. And one of the things, Boo, is I don't do lunch meetings anymore. I stopped doing those because they were taking up time, the amount of time it took me to get there. And there are times that I already have a meal prepared for lunch. I'm going to go out and run for that 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to come back. My meal is ready because I've prepped it. It's healthier. It's easy to access. It's done. I don't have to think about it. And it just gets stuff done. And I think we, especially as men, we tend to think we need to hit the grand slam. Like, I need to crush it this week. I'm going to drop 10 pounds. I'm going to go, whatever the business goal is, I'm going to go do it all this week. If you would start to look at base hits and every day just attacking a little bit more, I think that's the shift in the mindset that people underestimate consistency over time. And we all want the quick fix, me included. But what I've found is that didn't work that way.
I remember being taught this phrase in officer training. It's called concurrent activity. And when you're young, I was 19, you're in officer training, and you would, for example, we call it a billy in Australia. It's just a big metal can full of hot water, full of water. You heat the billy and you make a cup of joe, right? And when you're kind of 19 and you don't know any better, you would sit there, you would start the fire and you'd put the billy on and you'd sit there and you'd watch it. And the instructors would say, "What are you doing?" I say, "I'll put the billy on." And they're like, "What else can you do now?" I'm like, "Oh, I just don't think like that." I just think that I have started a task and then it ends. But we can unlock so much more time if it's like when people, how people get to work and they're like, oh, my Windows computer needs updating. And then they'll sit there and fiddle and do an update and sit there for 15 minutes. It's like update, like what else can I do now? What else can I do that adds value? Fitness and fun. You can play tennis or join a running group or play soccer, right? Boom, boom. Two of the four hit all at the same time. So tell us a little bit about how you've been able to navigate kind of optimizing every hour.
Well, I think it goes back to your priorities every day. You think about when I was sharing with you earlier, my days used to start a lot earlier. I thought I had to be in like the 4 a.m. club and all that. And I start my calls and I'm pretty regimented on like 10 to 4 is pretty blocked. Like to get into that sweet spot and onto my calendar, it has to be things that are going to move the needle, move the ball down the field. And so I think optimizing your calendar.
And it's 3:00 at the moment, everyone. So we managed to get into the block.
Oh, you jammed it. But I'm going to give you the one that's helped me the most. This one has been the secret to, I think, optimizing my time is how many meetings have you ever been in that was scheduled for 60 minutes?
Oh, that's the default, right? That's what Microsoft and Google give you.
And how many times have people filled up the 60 minutes with aimless small talk, little stuff? Just, you feel like you got the 60 minutes blocked. So you just go until the end of the 60 minutes. Maybe even go
You're
over.
boiling the billy, mate. Put the billy on. Yeah.
So one of my coaches and I were having this conversation actually a few years ago. We're looking at this and he challenged me to do it, which first off, I'm like, you're nuts. He goes, I want you to take every meeting that's on your calendar. If you can't delete it, cut it in half. What? Like, we need the 60 minutes, man. Like, or the 30-minute meeting. I can't do that in 15 minutes. He's like, what if you just showed up and you told everybody, hey, we're going to jump into this, guys. I want to respect your time. We only have 15 minutes to get through this. Let's jump right into it. Let me just tell you how my world changed. And I started doing that with people that said, hey, I need 30 minutes of your time. And even with Calendly, we use that a lot. And I'll send people, go 15-minute Calendly. And what I found is, people started to respect that 15 minutes. They showed up more prepared. They were more engaged. We got more done in the 15 minutes. When I just let it go and somebody's like, hey, do I have a few minutes? Do you have a few minutes to talk about this? If you start to put some boundaries around this, I believe people actually respect it. And I'm not saying that you're not on an exception going to go, hey, you know what, this has been over 15 minutes. Like, we need to keep talking. That could happen. But imagine if more than half of your meetings you cut in half. And imagine if some of those meetings you actually looked at and said, I don't even need that meeting anymore. Like, this started to happen to me where I would look on Sunday nights and go, we already solved that project and that problem. Or I'm not the one that needs to do something next in this project. That needs to go over to finance. That needs to go over to marketing. I don't need to be part of that. And so I started removing myself from meetings, eliminating them or delegating them out. And I think that's where, if someone's listening, I would start. And if you're honest on your schedule and you start to implement those things, watch how you start to have free time. It freaked me out at first because after a few months, my calendar started to look empty. And I'm like, well, now what? He goes, this is where we get to have fun. What are the things you want to do? What are the things that drive your business? What are the things you're passionate about? What are the things you've been waiting to do, but you know you need to do? Where's your time to work on you? What? Like, the game gets played differently by people that take control of this.
I couldn't agree more. We at Afterburner, our goal is to train companies to run on 12, 15-minute meetings a week. And one of our biggest clients, Fannie Mae, working with a project, and they used to have a project meeting 2 a week. They both took 4 hours. 4 hours, right? Project meetings. Within 4 weeks, we got it down to an hour, and it's still an hour, but we normally get to about 15 minutes, and everyone's there like, it's done. So we just shuffled it down to 15 minutes. So this is one of the world's biggest bank. If you look at the amount of funds under management, the size of the portfolio, that used to, because it was there, have 4-hour meetings to solve problems, and they can get it down to 15 minutes. That to me just and you multiply, that's 100 people used to go to those meetings. 400 hours wasted down to 20 people over 15 minutes. And twice a week, 800 man hours a week has been given back to that organization through 15-minute meetings.
That changed their entire trajectory.
You know what? And what I think what it does, being intentional is not something that we are. And you would know that. Like once you realize the whole concept of it, you start to see a lack of it everywhere, right? But this is where it's so important for organizations to build systems, and that is the system. And that's it. If you have to beat a 15-minute meeting, guess what you're going to do? All the update stuff, all the things you normally talk about, you're going to do that before the meeting. You've got a small amount of time where you're going to look like you know what you're talking about, or you're not. And it only takes one or two before people start to realize, wow, I got to get organized. So rather than watching 10 people in a meeting get organized all at the same time and waste 45 minutes, I did this, let me just double check. Let me just check my emails. In the meeting, how rude. Imagine if you were just having a conversation with someone at a cafe one-on-one, right? And someone's like, oh, hey, I'm glad you come here. How are your kids? Oh, let me just, I'm not sure. Let me just double check. I'll just go back through my texts. Oh yeah, they're good. No way. You've got to have your act together. I mean, that's huge. I mean, and we did with another company, and you said something else. The fear of having nothing to do. Like these leaders would come up after working for 3 years, and they're like, "Boo, look, this has been really great, but I literally feel like I have nothing to do." And these are people leading 40,000 people. They're like, "I don't know what to do. I'm worried I'm going to get fired." And you're there, and you're like, "No, Brian. Now you do your job. Now you got time to think and make much better decisions rather than react." So, what have you seen in terms of really bad habits? Because I think mortgage, not even real estate, but mortgage broking is one of the toughest games out there. It would have to be in terms of effort versus reward. A lot of people who are really good at that are broken people. Like I've met them, I've worked with them, and I've seen people that make a lot of money on trailing commissions and brokerage, but they are loose and they are like. And then there's also people that do really well and they've got their act together. And I don't think it's got anything to do with mortgage broker. I think it's deeply human. It's just that you can see it more because it's on show. In your mind, in mentoring and leading people, like what do you see in terms of those dysfunctional behaviors and functional behaviors that kind of lead to the life-changing money that so many people are looking for?
So the performance of the high performers, the habits that we tend to see is they do have more discipline. And what I mean by that is most mortgage brokers, whether they're in a bank or they're independent mortgage banker, they're at a broker, wherever they happen to be, there's not really a schedule. And most of the managers don't live by a schedule anyway. And so you have this time freedom that I find a lot of them, if they are not structured and disciplined, they're just going to go through their day and expect people to call them, right? They're order takers is what we call them. And they're just waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for somebody to call them, waiting for their best real estate agent to call them. And hey, I've got a referral for you, boo. Like, let's start working on this. That to me separates people from day one. The ones that are hungry, and never forget when I started in the business, my manager was telling me, he's like, you've got to make calls every Monday. You got to go out to open houses. You got to go to real estate events. You got to go to you got to be everywhere. You always got to be calling on people and following up with people. And he always talked about this like 7 and 8 touch. He goes, people aren't going to say yes right away. And the second habit would be the follow-up. Is I find the people that are unsuccessful, not structured, not disciplined, they think they're going to get somebody on the first phone call to love them, say yes, yeah, pull my credit, lock my rate, I'm going with you. Consumer data doesn't show us that. They actually shop more than they used to. You can find more information on the internet. And so you have to figure out very quickly building rapport and separating yourself from other people. Meaning, if you just dive in and you call me, typical question is, hey, Brian, what's the rate? If you can't answer those common objections, you're going to be steamrolled. Because if you think you're going to have the lowest rate, if you think you're going to answer it with a numeric answer and not understanding and asking better questions, then I would tell you you're going to get smoked. The people that are winning today know how to build rapport. They know how to ask deep questions. They know how to build relationships. And they're able to explain their product and service in a way that you go, I'm not calling anybody else. Because the next phone call they have, the next guy or girl they talk to doesn't do that. They don't explain their process. They don't ask the right questions. They don't assure them why they're the best. They don't have testimonials online. And that would be the last thing I would tell you is The difference today is just mind-boggling. How many professionals have their testimonials social built? If you were to Google them, it's there. 10 years ago, it wasn't. And so you're starting to see now, I still think it's a great divide. The average, the amateurs, the people that are not winning, you go Google them, you can't find anything. You go to their social profiles, they don't have educational videos teaching you about an FHA loan to a jumbo loan to a construction loan. Like, you have nothing of value, and they have no follow-up there. So I would tell you, as you start building your personal brand, becoming that person, it's an easy industry. I say this all the time, to separate yourself from other people, because there's so many that got in for the wrong reasons, not putting in the work, and they have not evolved.
And that's a good point. I mean, the modern day social media is a little bit like the old fashioned, just going through all the A's in the phone book, right? It is just a manifestation of doing the sort of work no one wants to do. A lot of people who are really good at their job do not like social. Not many people really like doing all of that stuff, and they come across like they do. And I think people, again, it's very easy if you're choosing comfort over success to just infer that everyone loves doing that stuff. Oh, they're lucky because they're extroverted. They love doing videos. But as you know, like the average social media video actually takes a little bit of heavy intellectual thinking to try and figure out, how do I say something kind of profound here in the minimum amount of words possible? Okay, so we're talking about discipline. We're talking about doing the work that, they don't really want to do. What else?
Outside of building the personal brand, I'll tell you, the ones that I've seen continue to grow, they know how to build great teams. They're coachable. And why I put those together is, if you're coachable, what I found is you tend to make a great coach as well. I've yet to find a great coach that wasn't coachable. Like, my coach has a coach, right? Like that's how that works. The people that, if you're ever going to scale your business in today's world, you have to move out of that transactional world. And if you're always the person answering every phone call, you're always the person pulling credit, you're always the person getting documents. Imagine trying to do the entire process yourself. It is not scalable. It's what we're seeing both in real estate and mortgage, especially mortgage, because there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of things that have to get done. You need people around you. You've got to build a team where you know your strengths, and then you hire people around you to help you then scale it. And if you're great at prospecting and bringing in customers and referrals, then you need to get out of the way of the other stuff and do more of that. And I think too many people, I was guilty of it, and I know some today, they don't want to let go of it because they think, no one can do it like me. Nobody's going to, I have to clean it up. I don't have time to train them, whatever the excuse is. And the reality is, that's what the best are doing today, is they're scaling and buying back their time. And too many people are like, well, I want to get the full commission. I'll just call it what it is in our industry. They want the full commission. What if you gave up 20% of your commission to people on your team, but they took off the workload that was taking you 80% of your time? That math seems to work.
Yeah, it's hard though. And you see it all the time, don't you? I was consulting with a brokerage firm that had maybe 18 brokers and 10 support staff and a nice, beautiful, as brokers do, tend to go overboard on the beautiful office. And these two individuals were by themselves outstanding brokers, but they were still, with all those people, doing 40% of the business. And another 3 of the 17 brokers were doing it. And the balance of the 12 brokers weren't barely breaking even. And you would see how frustrated these two individuals were, because they can do it, right? And they just assume that I just keep adding brokers and I take my bid off the top, and all of a sudden I'm going to make 17 times more than I did, before. But they're actually going backwards because they're trying to pay the office rent. They've got all this support staff. You must, I don't know what you would call it. Maybe there's a thing in the industry, but people are sending out big proposals, but really the people have no interest in remortgaging. You're doing a lot of work, a lot of paperwork in the vain hope that someone's going to, like, there's a lot of myths, right? There's a lot of people in sales tell themselves stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the marketing I get from some people. It's still a relationship game, and I say this today is, if you follow consumer behavior, consumers are spending more and more time on social media, and they are consuming educational content. So if you can be educational and a little bit of the entertainment, and they like you, you're going to get your phone to ring. And all you're trying to do is get a conversation. But mailing, think back to the last time you called somebody back because they mailed you something. So why do we do that? Like, maybe brand awareness But I've yet to have somebody boot, and I actually had somebody at a different mortgage company. They send us stuff, right? Like, I wonder when they're actually going to call us. They don't.
Because that's an effort, right? That's more of an effort than ordering 1,000 brochures on a mail out list than putting out a bulk email. I think contextualize outbound calling, right? It's so hard to outsource your brand to someone that doesn't know it in terms of outbound, right? It just always comes down to you just got to do the things you really just that are hard and don't really yield a result. I mean, you must have had days when you're in the finance game of just outbounding with nothing for a day.
Oh, all that. We probably made 50 plus calls a day. And so the people that would finance their furniture, we would call them and try to upsell them credit cards, auto loans, debt consolidation, personal loans, right? Like we would do all of that. You know how many people would literally just hang up on you like, hey, lose my info. Wouldn't answer. And there were some that would get mad at you, and they're like, hey, I don't know how you got my information or whatever. Like, no. And you just go through it. And there's some people that engage with you and then you would quote things to them. And they're like, no. And so you do all the work and all that. So yeah, I built pretty thick skin early on of a lot of no's, but I will say this is in any sales, the more reps you get and the more training, and we had this high performance sales training and I've been through a lot of those since then. And I'm like, if you can learn to deal with objections and you can get over yourself and come from a service standpoint of I'm calling, trying to understand their needs and just make a connection, not make a sale, the sales will start to happen. It will start to happen. But too many of us are like, I'm making these calls, I'm making a sale. Not really how it works.
Yeah, it's true. It's the whole problem with selling is this perception that you're selling something rather than creating an environment where someone feels compelled to buy from you to meet their needs, right? Hey, Brian, coming towards the end of the podcast, what 3 pearls would you give yourself back at the age of 16, 17, 18 that would have accelerated your journey or maybe created a sliding door? I mean, I know there's no such thing as a sliding door. You can just open it now. But what do you think would be 3 things that just little pearls that would have just helped you a little bit that someone else might be able to use?
Start sooner than you're ready on just about everything. A lot of things I thought I needed to have more information, more experience, more money to start investing, saving, building, investing in rental properties, right? For example. And I would say start before you're ready would be one, as I caught myself several times looking back now, and I thought I would be ready. And the reality is everything that I've done, I was never fully ready. So I would say that. 2 is hire and invest in my personal development sooner. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago, but I got serious and I started putting some real money behind what was there. I use this metric, I share it with people and I'll share it here is really 10% should be that minimum floor of your gross earnings that you're investing back in your personal development, mentorships, conferences, masterminds, coaches, and those things. If I had done that sooner, the amount of growth I've had in those years of the right coaches and investing in myself is exponentially grown my network and my net worth and things that if I'd started that 20 years ago, who knows? I would have gotten there faster and avoided some of the pitfalls and problems that I had to deal with. And then 3 is trust my instincts. There's been times, whether it was an investment deal or someone we hired or just situations where something's not right, it doesn't align up with your values and who you are. And there were times that I would compromise that to be in the right group or to, move to that promotion. And I'm like, I don't really want to work with this company, or that's not really what I want to do. Or I would sacrifice family time to go travel to get the promotion. And I would just tell you, like, be really clear on what success is for you earlier and have your non-negotiables. And don't be afraid to say no. I did that over the last 10 years more than I had the first 10 years in my career. And it actually then afforded me some of the freedoms that I have now. And that, man, looking back, you just don't know what you don't know at that point. So those are my 3.
That's awesome, man. Hey, Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show. We have all Brian's links downstairs in terms of reaching out to Brian to help you tune up your leaders, get your personal life in order, have him speak at your events. Hey, Brian, it was so cool, man. I cannot wait to get up to Nashville in a few weeks, say hi, soak up the vibe, that whole, here in Miami, we don't get much of a fall. And just having the opportunity to share some more of that wisdom. So thanks so much for coming on The Few. Super grateful for the time, man.
Appreciate you, brother.